My name's Ava. I'm a Scorpio.
No. What's your last name?
Ava Combs.
What's your other last name?
Ava Baroni.
Ava Baroni Combs? Yes, it's breaking news. Diddy adopted a white child.
You would be standing up for it too. But the fact that you can feed and fall into evil and then wonder why you can't look in the mirror. If you have children, wonder why there's even a crumb of something dangerous.
In fact, his adopted daughter. Some are saying this woman in the background here is her mother, but nothing is confirmed. You can see she's been with him in interviews, hanging out with Diddy.
Okay, he just helping out a nice little white girl that needed some a family. Okay. Okay. Come on, y'all. Y'all smarter than this. Y'all smarter than this.
Her. Here's a picture of her that her parents took. It's one of the last photos. Now, take note of her long forehead, her shortened chin, the jaw structure, the teeth, the eyebrows, the eyes, the eye color, the cheekbones, and ears. And she just also happens to be the exact right age.
First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous.
Back in 2000, early 2000, right? So let's talk about who's guilty here. The DOJ released a video that at first everybody said they couldn't find a video of Cassie Ventura being, they couldn't find it, it didn't exist. You saw one clip, and then you saw DOJ release another clip to the news. So the DOJ had that clip to begin with. So the people who are telling you that they don't have the Epstein file, they're full of shit. What other way do you want me to explain that? They're lying to you. The ones that are telling you, Pam Bondi, that she only had a little bit, it is bullshit. Bullshit. Because they told you the same thing, and now you're seeing it with the Sean Combs case. They told you they just had a little bit of a video, and then it got released. That's on the DOJ. They lied to you. They told you that nothing happened, that this man, Sean Combs, was just this rap mogul that everybody loved. No, he couldn't have hurt nobody. He couldn't have did anything. And then all this stuff came out. Well, he did that. But yeah, he couldn't have did anything else. And then something else came out. Okay, well, maybe he did that too. But he couldn't have did anything else. And then something else comes out. How many people did you hear say, I left a party early? I knew about the abuse. I knew about children being there. I knew about him the hell out of females. I knew about the parties going on with multiple people, so it wasn't just Sean Combs. I knew about all of that, but I left early. So guilty. How many people did you hear say about Cassie Ventura that I knew that she was being I knew that she was wrong. I knew what he was doing, but I'm just now speaking about it. Guilty. Coward. How many maids did it take to clean up a penthouse suite? Know that there was blood and glass everywhere, but they kept their mouth shut because they got paid. Guilty. So we're not talking, let's go back down to the bottom. The hotel manager that you guys never seen his face at first of this hotel, he heard the beat. He heard the screaming. He knew what was going on. He knew that Sean Combs was in there. He knew that he had other girls with him. He knew what was going on. He had the footage. He talked to the security. That hotel manager is who took that footage from the security and said, okay, hand me some money or help me be quiet. I'm going to shut the hell up. You did not hear anything from that hotel manager until now. But they told you, that hotel manager, if you would have went back then, they would have told you, no, we don't know anything. Cover up. Guilty. The security that were on shift that night, that knew about this footage, that knew he dragged her down the hallway, that knew he kicked her in the back and all over the place. The hotel security that knew about that, they looked away. They got paid off. Guilty. How many ways now the FBI that have had all of this information for a really long time looked away from it as well?
What if one of the most bizarre celebrity rumors you've ever heard wasn't just a rumor? Because for a moment, the internet couldn't stop talking about it. Videos, photos, even interviews showing Sean Diddy Combs introducing a young girl as his adopted daughter. But then, just as quickly as she appeared, she vanished. No updates, no explanation. And now, years later, new voices are coming forward with claims so disturbing. They're forcing people to revisit one chilling question. What really happened to the girl known as Ava? Because if the timelines The missing persons report and the eyewitness accounts are all pointing to the same person. Then this story might be a lot darker than anyone expected. It started like one of those strange celebrity moments the internet loves to latch onto. Quick clips, reposted interviews, screenshots flying everywhere, showing Sean Diddy Combs casually introducing a young girl as his adopted daughter, smiling beside her, bringing her into his world as if it were the most natural thing in the world. And for a while, that's exactly how people treated it. Just another unexpected chapter in a celebrity's already unpredictable life. Something curious, but ultimately normalized, brushed off as generosity or eccentricity, until the attention faded and the headlines moved on. But here's the part that didn't fade, because while the internet stopped asking questions, the girl at the center of it all seemed to vanish entirely. No follow-ups, no updates, no clear explanation of where she came from or where she went, and that silence has since turned into something much louder, forcing one unsettling question back into the spotlight. Who is Ava really? And how does someone go from being publicly introduced to the world to seemingly disappearing from it without a trace? Because behind the viral moment was a real child with a real history, and long before those clips ever surfaced, there was a father, David, whose last confirmed memory of his daughter wasn't anything close to fame or flashing cameras, but something painfully ordinary, seeing her as a little girl and believing she was still living her life somewhere out of reach, but not out of existence, completely unaware that, at some point, she would be introduced to millions under a different narrative he knew. Nothing about, blindsided in the most unimaginable way. Not just by the public reveal, but by the realization that he had lost track of her long before the world even knew her name. And that's where the story starts to shift from bizarre to deeply unsettling. Because when you rewind the timeline, the pieces don't fall into place. They fall apart. A child who suddenly stops showing up to school for weeks, no explanation given. A mother who becomes unreachable, calls unanswered, concerns slowly, building until they can't be ignored anymore. And when authorities finally step in to check the last known address, they're met with something that feels less like a mistake and more like a warning sign. An empty lot, no trace of anyone ever living there. The kind of discovery that turns confusion into alarm, pushing the situation into official territory as a missing persons case. And yet, even that doesn't seem to generate the urgency you'd expect, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions that only grow heavier with time, until someone revisits those old viral clips and notices something that changes everything. The timing, the eerie overlap between when Ava was reportedly missing and when she began appearing publicly, standing beside one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. And suddenly, what once looked like coincidence starts to feel like something else entirely, especially when people begin pointing out similarities. The age lines up, the features appear strikingly close, the mannerisms, the presence. And while none of it confirms anything outright, it creates just enough doubt to keep the question alive, drawing more voices into the conversation, including figures like Jaguar Wright and Ally Carter, who have both come forward with claims that push the story even further into disturbing territory, suggesting that cases like this may not be isolated incidents, but part of a larger, hidden pattern involving so-called wards connected to powerful individuals. Though it's important to remember these are allegations, perspectives that remain unproven yet impossible to ignore, because what they imply isn't just about one missing girl. It's about a system where influence can blur lines, where visibility doesn't always mean safety, and where, according to some, the very institutions meant to investigate might not always act the way people expect, raising uncomfortable questions about power, money, and silence, and whether stories like Ava's slip through the cracks because they're too complicated or because someone somewhere benefits from them staying that way. And after all the theories, the timelines, and the noise surrounding this story, everything keeps circling back to one person who never asked to be part of any of it. David, the father who's been left trying to make sense of a reality that doesn't add up, holding on to the last version of his daughter he truly knew, not the one seen in viral clips or debated across the internet, but the little girl he remembers, the one who once looked at him with curiosity when she was just beginning to. understand who he was. And despite everything that's been said, everything that's been implied, he continues to hold on to a belief that hasn't broken, at least not completely. That she's still out there, still alive, still somewhere beyond the reach of all the speculation. Even as doubt quietly creeps in during the moments no one sees. Because how do you stay certain when years go by without a single confirmed sign, without a voice, without proof? And yet he does, choosing faith over finality, hope over closure, convincing himself that wherever she is, she's being watched over, that one day this silence will break and lead her back to him. Because letting go of that belief would mean accepting something he's not ready to face and maybe never will be. But that's also what makes this story linger, because for every answer people think they've found, there are still questions that refuse to go away, questions that sit heavier the longer they remain unanswered. Where is Ava now? Really, not the version people think they've seen, but the truth of where she is today. Why has no one ever definitively confirmed her identity if the connections are as strong as some claim? And if she is safe, if she's living freely somewhere out of the spotlight, then why hasn't she spoken? Not once, not even to shut it all down. And as time passes, that silence starts to feel less like coincidence and more like something else entirely. Something harder to explain, because stories like this don't just disappear. They either unravel or they're kept quiet. And the longer this one stays in the dark, the more people begin to wonder if that's by chance or by design, which leaves it here, unresolved, still hanging in that space between possibility and truth. And maybe the real question now isn't just what happened, but what people are willing to believe about it. Because when you look at everything laid out side by side, do you think this is all just a series of coincidences or something bigger?